the UN Security Council, PAC and Islamic Conference Organization recognize Armenia's occupation of Azerbaijani territories in their resolutions. In 1992, U.S. Congress passed Section 907 against Azerbaijan. When analyzing the time when Section 907 was passed, we can find out how the Congress, or to be exact, the Democrats in the Congress, were unjust to Azerbaijan. Back in 1992, Armenia, backed by Soviet troops, started an invasion of the Azerbaijani territories. Terrorists of Armenian and of other ethnic origin, coming from every corner of the world, had settled in Azerbaijani lands, seized and controlled by Armenia, and launched military campaign against Azerbaijan. Naturally, Azerbaijan was obliged to start anti-terror operations to clean its territories from terrorist groups. At the time when the people of Azerbaijan was attacked by Armenia, and at the same time fought for independence against the USSR leadership, U.S. Congress applied Section 907 against Azerbaijan. This amendment prohibits direct U.S. assistance to Azerbaijan. It was a time when Azerbaijan's fight for independence needed both material and moral and political support. By adoption of Section 907, the U.S. Congress refused Azerbaijan such kind of help. To put it another way, the Democratic contingent at the U.S. Congress did political and material damage to Azerbaijan's struggle for independence. At the same time, Section 907 justified Armenian aggression and encouraged Armenian invasion of Azerbaijan. On the other hand, Section 907 was a stab in the back of Azerbaijan's anti-terror operations and relatively political support to terrorists that had settled down in Azerbaijani lands, international terrorist Monty Mulkemyan's group. Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act of the U.S. Congress was a political decision that assisted terrorism and to those who threatened the territorial integrity of the nation that was fighting for independence, and was a blow to those who wanted to build an independent and democratic state. Warped judgment stated in the line of the decision, elimination of Azerbaijan's hostile actions and blockade against Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, is beyond doubt for informed circles. Because quite the reverse, it was Azerbaijan that fell a victim to aggression and was used force against. Occupation of Azerbaijan's territories is the best example of the sad. On the other hand, Azerbaijan has made blockade of neither Armenia nor Nagorno-Karabakh. Both of them have direct access to the outer world. Another manifestation of bias is that Armenia's cutting out Nakhchivan from Azerbaijan is not reflected in the document and unilaterally reflects Armenia's interest. If Armenia's situation is characterized as a blockade, then that of Nakhchivan must be treated the same way. Armenia, with its traditional roots, has an access to the whole world via Georgia and Iran, and Nakhchivan has been split off from the country's main territory. Intelligent bias in U.S. stance is that despite the fact that UN Security Council resolutions, PACE, Islamic Conference Organization resolutions recognize Armenia's occupation of Azerbaijani territories, Section 907 remain in force. The United States' position on this issue can be formulated as follows. Armenia has occupied Azerbaijani lands. Azerbaijan must open the roads leading to Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. One can clearly see a logic of biased and unjust attitude regarding Azerbaijan in the essence of this irrationality. And how about the other face of the matter? It was the Democrats who played an important role in adoption of Section 907. This idea was proposed by ex-presidential Democratic nominee John Kerry. Republican Senators Richard Lugar and John McCain were against it, but later, on the initiative of the Democrats and special persistence of current Vice President Joseph Biden, Section 907 against Azerbaijan was adopted. The report of the Armenian Assembly of America says that Senator Joseph Biden gave particular support to Armenian American issues. The document runs, speaking about the right to self-determination during the early stages of the Soviet Union's disintegration, in 1990, Senator Biden said that we, United States, must place the right of self-determination at its center. Nagorno-Karabakh only reminds us of the need and the responsibility of the United States to let it be known to the whole world that we condemn the suppression of free speech and expression everywhere, condemn the use of force to silence those who seek freedom, and recognize the right of all peoples to decide for themselves the form of government under which they choose to live. Senator Biden also voted in support of Senator John Kerry's Conditions and Assistance to Azerbaijan Amendment to the Freedom Support Act in 1992, which became known as Section 907. Following the devastating earthquake in Armenia in 1988, as well as Azerbaijan's ongoing assault against the Armenians in 1993, Biden joined in signing a letter to then Secretary of State Warren Christopher calling for a stronger U.S. response to the crisis in the Republic of Armenia, as the people of Armenia are experiencing winter without fuel or adequate supplies of food as a result of the continued economic blockade imposed by neighboring Azerbaijan and the sabotage of a natural gas pipeline through Georgia. Throughout the 1990s, Biden supported the Armenian genocide claims and defended Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act, Armenia and Azerbaija conflict. In a critical vote in 1999, when opponents tried to repeal Section 907 to carry favor with Azerbaijan, Senator Biden stood by his principles and voted to maintain this important provision of law. The report of the Armenian Assembly of America also runs, in the 110th Congress, Chairman Biden continues to play a critical leadership role from his introduction of legislation honoring the legacy of slain journalist Hrant Dink and calling upon Turkey to repeal Article 301 of its penal code, which punishes discussion of the Armenian genocide, to his co-sponsorship of Senate Resolution 106, which affirms the Armenian genocide. All this is a written attitude of the Armenian Assembly of America regarding Joseph Biden and is reflected in the Assembly's report. Analysis showed that all pro-Armenian American politics want to cope in Azerbaijan. They are concerned mainly about two things: first about Armenians, and the latter the situation of democracy and human rights in Azerbaijan. Whoever who is committed to exerting pressure on Turkey in the Armenian genocide issue and backs independence of Azerbaija takes the most active part in Azerbaijan in human rights and democracy-related issues. No doubt now that there is a direct link between these two issues. This has already become a law of physics of American policy. The leader in defending interests of Armenians at Congress, Frank Pallone, invited Azerbaijani opposition to Washington in 1998 and discussed democracy issues in Azerbaijan with them. Deputy Chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Chris Smith, voted in favor of the so-called Armenian genocide. Meanwhile, his second favorite hobby is to seek and find democracy and human rights-related problems in Azerbaijan. For instance, according to his interview to Azadli radio station in 2005, it's obvious that he would like to see repetition of the conflict that took place in Georgia in 2004, this time in Azerbaijan. Chris Smith says that Congress is very concerned about the situation in Azerbaijan. It also testifies to the assumption that democracy and human rights requirements are a level of pressure for USA in foreign policy. If someone fails to correspond to US foreign policy interests, they start exerting democracy and human rights pressure on them. Now, with so pro-Armenian government leaders who have spent their lifetime to treat Turkey and Azerbaijan from Armenian viewpoint like to see Azerbaijan flourish and develop. Let's get back to Section 907. In accordance with the section, the ban remains in force until Azerbaijan takes steps to lift the current situation. Azerbaijan has agreed with the Madrid principles proposed by the USA and other co-chairs. It means a step has been taken to change the situation. Nonetheless, Armenia rejects these proposals. Why the US President does not repeal this section? It is stated in Part 2 of the section that President can abolish this ban if it does not contradict US national interests. Then another question emerges. What kind of connection is there between US national interests and Section 907? It seems that certain circles see US national interests in Armenian aggression against Azerbaijan. In other words, occupation of the Azerbaijani lands can be regarded as meeting national interests of the USA. Azerbaijan's alternative energy potential is extremely high, and state policy in this direction must be appreciated. This idea was voiced at the conference also attended by Chairman of the Global Alternative Energy Council, Herman Scherer.
A conference on alternative and renewable energy potential and work done for their exploitation has been held with organizational support of the Ministry of Industry and Power Engineering. Minister Natig Aliyev talked about the state policy for use of alternative energy potential at the conference attended by Chairman of the Global Alternative Energy Council, Herman Sher. He said that the state law on exploitation of renewable energy was adopted based on President Ilham Aliyev's relevant decree signed in 2004. A state agency was established under